They said the evidence was clear. The bank statements, the fake IDs, the digital trail that screamed my name. I stood there, numb, as the detective slid photo after photo across the table, each one a dagger shaped like my own face. My best friend, Daniel, the man who helped me through my divorce, who knew my passwords for emergencies, had built this perfect lie. He used my name to drain accounts, my face to commit fraud, my signature to ruin every trace of who I was. My employer believed him. My mother hesitated to answer my calls. Every word out of his mouth tightened the noose around my neck. And while I drowned in accusations, he smiled, clean, calm, rehearsed. But I wasn't dead yet. Somewhere, hidden deep inside the chaos, I knew the truth had left a digital fingerprint. And when I found it, I swore I'd make him wish he never touched my life. Before we dive into the story, tell me in the comments which country you're watching this from. I love seeing how far these stories travel, and it helps me connect with you all around the world. It started with small kindnesses, the kind that disarm you before you realize you've been targeted. Daniel had this way of making everyone feel seen. He remembered your coffee order, the name of your dog, the song you hummed under your breath at work. When my marriage was crumbling, he became the only person who didn't look at me with pity. He'd call just to check in, drop by with dinner, say things like you're too good for her anyway. It felt like loyalty. It felt like brotherhood. When my laptop crashed during a late-night report, he was there in minutes, sleeves rolled up, eyes focused. "You really should let me back up your system," he said. "You're too trusting of technology." I laughed. How ironic that I didn't realize the danger in those words. A week later, I gave him access to my cloud drive. "Just in case," I'd said. He nodded, typing fast, his fingers moving like someone who'd done this before. He started knowing things before I told him. He'd finish my sentences. Text me reminders about appointments I hadn't even mentioned. I called it intuition, until intuition started costing me money. Small transactions missing, accounts requiring verification, a sudden email about suspicious activity. Daniel brushed it off. "Phishing scam," he said smoothly. "Let me check your settings." And then, the subtle shift, he began talking about trust. How it's so rare these days. How people always suspect the wrong ones. I remember the chill that crawled through my spine when he said it. His tone wasn't friendly anymore, it was rehearsed. Testing. Measuring. But I didn't see it yet. Not until the day my boss called me into his office, holding a printed email with my signature at the bottom, an email I never wrote, transferring client funds to an unknown account. Daniel stood behind him. Calm. Concerned. "Man, I told you to be careful," he said. And in that instant, I realized the truth. He wasn't my savior. He was the architect of my destruction. It didn't happen all at once. That's the genius of it. Daniel's betrayal moved like smoke, silent, shapeless, impossible to grasp until you were already choking on it. After that first accusation, I tried to rationalize everything. Maybe the IT system had been hacked. Maybe a virus forged the transfer email. But Daniel always arrived before my panic could take form. He'd sit next to me, calm as glass, typing with a surgeon's precision. "See?" he'd say. "It's all under control." Except nothing was. Over the next few weeks, my name began surfacing in places I'd never been. A rental car in Miami. A hotel booking in Atlanta. Transactions in cities I hadn't visited in years. Every digital trace pointed directly at me, same ID number, same social security, even the same signature. The cops didn't see a mistake. They saw a pattern. I spent nights scrolling through my statements, line after line of proof that I was vanishing behind a version of myself I didn't recognize. Daniel's advice was always the same: don't overreact. Let me talk to them. You're only making it worse if you fight this. That phrase, making it worse, echoed in my head. Because every time I trusted him, something else went wrong. A late payment. A locked account. A routine verification that froze my credit. He was everywhere, managing everything, and I couldn't see the strings. Then came the day I opened my inbox and found a message from a woman I didn't know. Subject: "We need to talk about your fraud claim." Attached was a copy of her bank statement, with my name in the sender field. Her life savings gone. Her email ended with, "You'll pay for what you did." I looked at Daniel that night across the bar counter, his phone glowing as he smiled faintly at something unseen. "Rough day?" he asked. My voice cracked when I said, "Someone's framing me." He didn't look up. "Then maybe you shouldn't make it so easy." That was when I saw it, his reflection in the dark window. Not the face of a friend, but of a man who already owned my life. It began with whispers. Then headlines. Someone had leaked evidence, screenshots of emails, call logs, even a voice recording that sounded like me authorizing wire transfers. By the time I saw it, the post had already gone viral. My face was plastered across feeds with captions like "corporate scammer exposed" and "identity thief pretending to be the victim." Daniel was the first to comment. He wrote, "I'm heartbroken. I trusted him with everything. I just hope he gets the help he needs." The world swallowed his performance whole. My inbox drowned in hate mail. Clients demanded refunds. My employer suspended me pending investigation. Even my mother, left me a voicemail saying, "I don't know who you are anymore." Daniel didn't just frame me. He rewrote me. He started giving interviews, always calm, always sympathetic. "He wasn't always like this," he told one reporter, eyes glistening just enough to look sincere. "But I had to come forward when I realized what he'd done. I couldn't let others get hurt." Each word buried me deeper. Each lie sounded more reasonable than the truth. By the end of the week, I couldn't leave my apartment without someone recognizing me. People took photos. Someone threw a cup at my car. Every click of a camera shutter felt like a gunshot. Then came the final blow, a video leak. Footage of someone wearing my clothes, my mannerisms, signing papers in a bank office. The timestamp matched the stolen funds withdrawal. Except, there was one detail Daniel didn't notice. A reflection in the glass partition. Faint. But not me. I replayed it 100 times, zooming in until the pixels bled together. The build, the movement, it was him. Daniel. My so-called friend. That's when something inside me shifted. The fear didn't vanish, it froze. Hardened. Turned into something clean and surgical. He wanted to destroy my name. I decided I'd make him choke on it instead. It was 6:14 a.m. when they came for me. 3 sharp knocks, not angry, just official. The kind that end a life without raising their voice. I opened the door still half asleep, shirt clinging to me from sweat, the smell of stale coffee and fear filling the hallway. Behind the door, 2 officers in dark jackets, eyes flat, hands resting on holsters like punctuation marks. "Mr. Hale?" one said. "You're under arrest for identity theft, wire fraud, and falsifying financial records." I remember laughing, not from humor, but from disbelief that sounded too close to insanity. "You're kidding." They weren't. Cold metal wrapped around my wrists. My neighbor's doors cracked open. I saw faces, curious, disgusted, satisfied. In their eyes, I wasn't the man who helped fix their car or brought their mail inside. I was the headline. The fraud. At the precinct, they sat me in a chair under fluorescent lights that hummed like insects. Every word I said felt like it vanished before reaching anyone's ears. I tried explaining. I begged them to check timestamps, IP logs, camera angles. But Daniel had done his homework. Every document, every login, every byte of data pointed straight to me. Then they played the video, the one from the bank. My face signing the forms. My ID on the table. My voice saying, "Transfer the full amount." I stared at the screen until my vision blurred. But there it was again, the reflection. Barely visible, but unmistakable. The shape of a man watching from behind the glass. The same height. The same stillness. "Daniel. Do you have anything else to say?" the detective asked. "Yeah," I said softly. "You're arresting the wrong man." He sighed, clicking his pen. "They all say that." The cell was cold. My phone confiscated. My name trending. Outside, Daniel's narrative grew stronger, the loyal friend who tried to stop me. I closed my eyes that night and made myself a promise, the kind you whisper so quietly that even the walls don't hear. I would get out. I would find him. And when I did, the world would finally know what kind of man Daniel really was. Silence has a sound. In a cell, it hums, low, electric, endless. It gets inside your skull and gnaws at your thoughts until you start doubting the rhythm of your own breathing. Days blurred into one another, no clocks, no sun, just recycled air and that humming light. The guards didn't speak unless necessary. My lawyer visited twice, polite, detached, more concerned with plea deals than justice. "They have everything," he said, tapping the case file like a coffin lid. "Emails, signatures, transaction histories. Whoever set you up knew exactly what they were doing." I wanted to scream his name, but even that felt dangerous. Because what if I was wrong? What if Daniel had already buried me too deep to ever climb out? Then came the envelope. No return address, slid under my cell door late one night. Inside, a single photo. A still frame from the bank footage. The reflection, clearer now. A timestamp circled in red ink. On the back, a message written in block letters. "You're not crazy." The handwriting wasn't familiar. But whoever sent it had access to evidence sealed by police. Someone out there believed me. Someone was watching. I spent that night tracing the pattern of Daniel's moves in my head. The timing of the emails. The precise sequence of withdrawals. His words, his gestures, the perfect rehearsed sorrow he displayed. And then, something clicked, a date. The day before the first stolen transfer, Daniel had borrowed my laptop to fix a system error. He'd asked for my password, and joked, "Don't worry, I'll forget it right after." Except he hadn't. The next morning, when the guard brought breakfast, I asked for one thing, a pencil and paper. He frowned. "What for?" "Just need to write something down before I forget it," I said. That was the moment I began planning my way out, not through innocence, but through evidence. Because if Daniel built this cage out of data, I would tear it apart bite by bite. And when the truth finally surfaced, I'd make sure his silence sounded exactly like mine, eternal, echoing, and inescapable. When I finally got out on bail, freedom didn't feel real, it felt conditional, borrowed, like air through a cracked window. My world had shrunk to whispers and pixels. Every friend had turned to stone, every contact severed. Only one thing still connected me to the truth, the data Daniel thought he erased. I started at my old apartment, now stripped bare, a ghost of its former self. The air smelled of dust and betrayal. But in the corner, behind a fallen bookshelf, I found it, an old external hard drive. My drive. The one Daniel had backed up for me months ago. When I plugged it in, the screen blinked to life. Folders opened like wounds. Some were corrupted, others locked behind passwords I didn't remember setting. But Daniel had always been predictable in his arrogance. His passwords followed patterns, birthdays, pet names, movie quotes. And after an hour of trial and error, one clicked open. What I found wasn't my data. It was his. Encrypted message logs, routing protocols, cloned IPs. Dozens of fake profiles, each built with stolen fragments of me, my photos, my writing style, my tone. I was watching a simulation of myself built line by line, lie by lie. But that wasn't the real treasure. The real gold was buried in a folder labeled Confirm. Inside, timestamps of logins that overlapped with Daniel's known location data from his fitness app. He'd logged into my account while his GPS tracked him 2 miles away from my house. Digital fingerprints. Irrefutable. For the first time in months, I smiled. Still, I needed more, something public, something explosive. Evidence wasn't enough. The world needed to see him the way I had. That night, I reactivated an old contact, Lena, a cybersecurity analyst I'd once helped with a project. When she answered, her voice was hesitant. "Why are you calling me? Everyone says." "I know what they say," I interrupted. "But I can prove who did it. I just need your help to decode what he left behind." A long pause. Then, "Send me everything." We worked in silence, trading encrypted files, piecing together fragments of his deception. Hidden metadata, overlapping server logs, digital footprints he'd buried but never deleted. And when Lena finally spoke again, her tone had changed. "Whoever this Daniel is," she said, "he made one mistake." "What mistake?" I asked. "He forgot that even lies leave shadows. Ghost data. Invisible to the world, but undeniable to those who know where to look. And in those shadows, I saw his empire trembling, waiting for the right touch to collapse. Every lie Daniel ever told lived somewhere. That was his mistake. He believed digital footprints could be deleted, but deletion is only disguise. Underneath every erasure is residue, and residue remembers." Lena and I built our revenge in silence, line by line, code by code. She called it Project Mirror. The idea was simple: create a fake system, an imitation of one of Daniel's old scam networks, but embed it with silent trackers. Every click, every login, every file access would tag his IP, camera ID, and keystrokes. All we needed was to make him touch it. We baited him with his favorite currency, control. I wrote a carefully desperate email from a new identity, a fake victim begging him for help to clear their record after being framed, exactly what he'd done to me. The message dripped with panic, enough to stir his pride. We attached a link to the confidential case folder hosted on the Mirror server. Then, we waited. For 3 days, nothing. Then, at 2:17 a.m. the system lit up.
User logged in.
D. K. Device, iPhone, location, 0.4 miles from his office. He was biting. Lena texted, "He's in. Do you want to see this live?" I typed back one word, "Yes." On my screen, Daniel's cursor danced across the trap like a snake testing the air. He opened fake documents, scrolled, downloaded files, every action logged and mirrored. Then, finally, he entered his credentials. His real credentials. Our server captured everything, his screen recording, his webcam reflection, the exact moment he realized too late that something was wrong. He froze. I could almost feel the panic through the feed. His phone camera flickered, catching his own face in the dim glow of the monitor. He tried to disconnect. Too late. The system had already pushed his own data to a secure cloud drive linked to the case number that once condemned me. Now, it contained his evidence, his logins, his voice, his image. When Lena finally spoke, her voice trembled. "It's done." I just stared at the screen. Daniel's frozen expression, eyes wide, half in disbelief, half in fear. The same look I'd worn when they dragged me away in cuffs. "Not yet," I whispered. "He's only starting to feel what I felt." Because revenge wasn't the capture. It was the exposure. Next came the public execution, my way this time. The world loves a villain, until the mask slips. Then it loves watching him burn. For weeks, I prepared the reveal like a war campaign. Timing, distribution, narrative, all of it had to be perfect. One wrong move, and Daniel would bury me again. One perfect move, and he'd bury himself. Lena helped build the delivery system, a synchronized upload across every major platform, every account Daniel once used to smear me. News outlets, financial boards, even the discussion threads that still carried my name like a curse. When it went live, there'd be no controlling it. No silencing it. The night before the drop, I couldn't sleep. I replayed everything, his smirk, his betrayal, the way he'd looked at me while pretending to defend me. I wanted to feel triumph, but what I felt was hunger. Cold and focused. At 7 a.m., I pressed execute. Screens lit up across the internet. The video began with his own words, snippets of his public interviews about my crimes. Then it cut to the footage Lena and I had captured, Daniel logging into the fake account, his face illuminated by the monitor, his voice muttering the same credentials he'd used to destroy me. Next came the overlays, timestamps, GPS data, cross-referenced evidence showing he'd been online impersonating me while grieving on live TV. Every lie peeled away like skin under heat. Within minutes, the video exploded. Trending number 1, the real identity thief. Top comment, he framed his best friend. Second comment, he smiled on TV while he did it. I watched it all unfold from a quiet corner cafe, the same place where he used to check on me. News anchors stuttered through updates. Reporters camped outside his office. His sponsors dropped him before lunch. By afternoon, Daniel posted one desperate message. "This is a deepfake. None of this is real." But denial dies fast in the age of evidence. People found the court documents, the login records, the mirrored metadata. His co-workers leaked messages, mocking texts he'd sent bragging about how easy I'd been to fool. By sunset, his empire was ash. I walked outside and looked at the sky, gray, heavy, indifferent. Somewhere, I knew he was watching the same footage, realizing that the monster he'd created had turned on him. That night, I slept for the first time in months. Not peacefully, there's no peace after something like this, but deeply. The kind of sleep that comes when the world finally stops calling you a liar. Because the cameras had kept rolling. And now, everyone was watching the right man fall. Daniel didn't vanish right away. Men like him never do. They claw for air, for control, for anyone who will still believe their voice over the truth screaming in their face. At first, he fought. He hired crisis managers, lawyers, PR specialists. He blamed hackers, AI manipulation, even me, claiming I'd engineered a revenge scheme. But every statement only fed the fire. Every denial triggered another leak, another buried secret unearthed. Lena had set up the release cascade perfectly. Each time he tried to discredit the evidence, another piece surfaced: emails, private messages, voice recordings. A pattern of theft and manipulation stretching years before me. He hadn't just stolen my identity. He'd built a career out of it. By week's end, his accounts were frozen. His investors backed out. His face, once the smug poster of success, became a symbol of deceit. The news cycle devoured him. Memes. Parodies. Exposés. Everywhere he turned, His own image mocked him. And then came the quiet. People stopped calling. His office closed. His so-called friends erased him from photos, from memories, from existence. One night, I stood outside his apartment building. Through the window, I saw him pacing, phone in hand, shouting at ghosts. He'd lost the smoothness, the polish. His hair was unkempt, his movements jerky. The predator was finally prey to his own reflection. He spotted me on the sidewalk. Our eyes met through the glass. For a moment, the world froze. No words, just recognition, the pure, suffocating terror of a man realizing that every lie he'd crafted had come home to him. He mouthed something, "Please." I didn't move. Mercy wasn't part of the equation anymore. Not after the months of humiliation, the lost career, the prison walls that still haunted my sleep. As I turned to leave, his phone slipped from his hand, shattering on the floor. I didn't stay to watch what came next. I didn't have to. Some collapses you don't need to witness, you can hear them. By dawn, his name had been wiped from every corporate registry. His accounts terminated. His reputation radioactive. Daniel Carter had become what he made me, a ghost. Only difference was, I'd learned how to live with it. He never would. In the weeks after his downfall, the world moved on, quickly, brutally, as it always does. The headlines faded. The feeds quieted. But I didn't move on. I couldn't. Because while Daniel's empire had crumbled, my name still carried his fingerprints. My record still whispered fraud, my resume still drew silence. He'd stolen more than money, he'd stolen certainty. So I went back for the one thing he still owned, the truth under my name. Lena and I compiled the final dossier, every log, every transaction, every falsified document, and submitted it directly to the prosecutors who'd once believed him. Within days, the case reopened. Daniel was summoned. When he walked into that courtroom, he looked like a shadow. No suit, no swagger. Just hollow eyes and trembling hands. I took the stand and told the story, every detail, from the passwords he'd guessed to the message that had ruined me. The jury didn't blink. Then Lena presented the footage, the trap, the mirror, his face illuminated by guilt. Daniel didn't speak. He just stared at the screen as his own image condemned him. When the verdict came, guilty on all counts, he didn't flinch. He just looked at me, and for the first time, there was no arrogance, no act. Only the dull understanding that his genius had built the cage he'd never escape. As they led him away, I felt nothing. No joy. No triumph. Just a quiet emptiness that hummed like peace. Outside, reporters swarmed, shouting questions. "What do you want to say to him?" someone asked. I looked straight into the nearest camera and answered. "He stole my name. So I took his life's meaning. Now, the world knows who we both really are." That clip went viral within hours, not for drama, but for symmetry. The man who framed his best friend destroyed by the same tools he'd used to rise. Days later, my record was cleared. My accounts restored. I signed my name again, my real name, and for the first time, it felt alive. I didn't rebuild the old life. I left it buried beside the man who'd tried to erase me. Because justice isn't about forgiveness. It's about balance. And now, finally, the scales were even.